I'm going to get started and by introducing this topic, which is how can we make our soul work solvent? So this is quite a substantial topic, and we've got four key questions that we're asking about this topic today, asking ourselves and you all to share as well. But firstly, I want to introduce Tomar, who's my business sister. She's an incredibly gifted guide, spiritual guide for people around the world, and she has this frequency for global awakening. So she just understands unity consciousness and what the world is actually going through at this time and what's needed to elevate humanity into this new paradigm. So she does Akashic record readings for business, and she also does intuitive business strategizing. And she's an amazing woman. I've learned so much from her ripe wisdom already. So I can't wait to do this call with you, Tomar. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. So it's my pleasure to introduce my business sister. And you're going to be finding out more about what we mean by that, because there's a whole story and teaching behind that term. Natalie Kent, who I think of as a light being and a nature spirit, who is so in unity with the energies of nature that she has been able to download whole incredible systems and processes and methods of working with people's souls in order to bring their soul work out into the world, in order to have them do so in a fully embodied way, and to create their business in alignment with the energies of nature. I've never met anyone who has so many original and innovative ideas just pouring through her. And she's very intuitive, she's totally inspired, and she just sparks brilliant points of light all the time into the projects that we're creating. In fact, I feel like I'm just trying to keep up with you, Natalie. So it's a real joy that we're doing this work together, and it's a unique occasion in my life of a kind of synergy of creativity. So let me just share with you a little bit about where this comes from. And when Natalie and I met, which is, I guess, a little over a year ago now, we realized that we shared a passion for a vision of a healed world, the way the world is supposed to be, a world of harmony of human society with nature, where the culture follows the principles of an ecosystem, and a world that sees business and money as sacred, not profane, and that believes in the principles of what we call true abundance, which is based on the energy of flow, not hoarding, accumulating lots of stuff, which stops the flow. And a world that's organized around community and collaboration rather than isolation and competition, where all of us are doing our businesses alone. So we believe this world is coming, and it's part of our mission to help bring it forward and to help encourage all the people that we know are in our community, in our tribe, to also help bring their gifts into the world for this purpose. We also found that we both receive our best business ideas by connecting with spirit and nature, and that neither of us is motivated by the idea of a 6 or 7 figure income. So I wonder if any of you listening can relate to any of these things that I've mentioned, because it's not just me and Natalie who share these traits. Most of our clients share the same desires, passions, and needs. Most spiritual entrepreneurs are here to give our soul work to the world, not to get rich. And there's a real disconnect between what we want, what we know, what we're here for, and the world of business structures that we have kind of entered into, which hasn't caught up yet, in my opinion, with this new paradigm that's coming into the world. So a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs blame themselves for not being good enough at the old paradigm of business and marketing. But it's a paradox, because we're not supposed to be good at the old paradigm. We're actually supposed to bring in a new paradigm. We're here to bridge the old reality to the new one. We're actually ahead of our time. but how to make that real and how to make our gifts and our soul work solvent while we are, here performing as part of what I call the transition team, the people who are here to help bring this new world in. So we also realize that spiritual entrepreneurs, for the most part, are not well served by most of the business programs out there. That's what I meant by there's a disconnect between where the world is going and where a lot of us spiritually aware people are being called, and the kind of models that we're being offered for how to learn to, create a business. And we don't fit in that world. We don't fit in that business world. We're expected to become someone we're not. We're even expected to want things we don't want, like that 6- and 7-figure income. And then we're being expected to master things that are really overwhelming, that are hard and complicated, and don't have to be that complicated. So Natalie and I decided to create something new, a virtual home for spiritual entrepreneurs. Virtual meaning it's online, but that would really be an oasis in the hectic and confusing world that is the online business and marketing world. It would be a home based on financial sanity, not inflation and false promises, on simple solutions, not overly complex and exhausting ones, and on collaboration, not having to do everything alone. These were all the things that we wanted. So we're creating this community online that we call the True Abundance Oasis, or DAO, and later we'll tell you a little bit more about it. So Natalie.
Yes, what an amazing intro. I second everything that Tomar has said about, really the context for why we're talking about this topic and true abundance in business. For me, it's really been a case of coming from doing everything what I call the hard way, lots of marketing funnels, making, having thousands of dollar programs, and creating a lot of complexity in my business. Two, over the years and through my communing with nature and observing the simplicity in nature, coming up with a system that brings more simplicity into business. So how can we actually create a simple livelihood without getting sucked into the craziness of the vortex that is out there, the marketing vortex, the 6-figure dream, the 7-figure dream, consistent growth. You don't have to ever stop growing your income. And what is that really doing? I often refer to this as parasitic growth. So in nature, when something is out of balance, parasites grow and they grow out of control. It's the same way that cancer grows in the body. It grows out of control. And it replicates itself, but it is doing it blindly. And that's certainly where I was coming from, being brainwashed into this way of doing business from the get-go. I thought that's what I had to do and be to be successful. So this leads to soul work. Why? Because soul work is inextricably linked with how we flow with life, how we are supported in life. Soul work is about having maximum flow coming through your body, from your soul's light into your body. And how you use that, how you express that in business or in service to people is what soul work is all about. So I want to share a few stages. This is something for you all to reflect on now and throughout the call and perhaps after, are the stages of soul work. So stage 1 is really where you're not sure what your soul work is. Maybe you have too many choices, too many interests. You're kind of looking in a lot of different directions. You don't have clarity yet. Stage 2 is you're feeling a call, but you haven't really taken any further action. It's still just an idea and you're not committed to anything yet. Stage 3 is you're testing out your soul work with your potential market and getting feedback. So this is the experimentation phase. Stage 4 is you're creating a viable business model and plan for your soul work. So you actually have something concrete for how you're going to deliver that soul work. Stage 5 is you have a hobby business, which means you basically have part-time occasional income. So you're not really making a full-time income yet. And stage 6 is you have a real business that fully sustains your life. So this is maximum flow in terms of soul work and money. So I'm going to actually post these in the chat so that you can reflect on them throughout the call, because we will be referring to where some of these things as we go through, and it would be helpful to know what stage each of you are at, especially when you might be asking questions. All right, so if we're here to deliver our soul work in the form of a business, it follows that it should be able to sustain us. So how do we make our soul work solvent? Let's start with question 1. So question 1 is, what is soul work and why is it important? So my take on this is that soul work is really about where your soul ray, your soul frequency of light enters the body and how it is expressed through the body. So that's kind of number 1, is how does that energy move through your body? And it's different for each person. There's a particular pattern in which it's expressed. So that's why we all look different for a start. Then the next step, of course, is that those soul gifts or that soul light frequency needs to actually be translated into a human need. So this is where soul plus work comes in. Work meaning that you're actually servicing a genuine, verified, current need in society. So this is where some people get stuck, because as Tomar mentioned, a lot of people, light workers and spiritual entrepreneurs, are ahead of their time. So they're trying to bring something through that many people aren't ready for yet. So, and we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But soul work really starts to take off, and your soul work can support you when you have a match for the soul gifts and the verified human needs, so market demand, essentially. So soul plus work is also about maximizing or optimizing your life force energy. So if you imagine soul energy or soul light coming into the body, it has to be maximized in the body. So your body and the level of resistance in your body, so fatty tissue or overdeveloped muscle or kinks in your bone structure, all interfere with that soul energy coming in and being expressed in the body. So you want to be maximizing with your soul work, firstly, in your own body, making sure your body is healthy and functional to deliver that soul work. So essentially maximizing your non-physical and your physical resources, non-physical being your soul energy. And the last point I really wanted to make about soul work is that your soul actually knows the divine combination of what you have and what people need. Your job is actually to be the translator of that. So if you imagine that your soul, and everyone's souls, has a bird's eye view of humanity, what's really going on at this time, then you are given exactly what you need in order to thrive and be supported in this life. It's your job to figure out how and bridge that gap with people who need what you have. So that's my take on soul works. Tomar, over to you.
Wow. Something you said, what you were just talking about with the soul's light coming through the body, which is such an unusual approach, reminds me of one of my basic principles is that we're here to bridge heaven and earth. We are doing that collectively as humanity, and those of us who are here at this time to help the transformation of the world, we are in particular, that's what we're here to do. And that's exactly how I see it, which is that this inspiration comes from our soul connection to the divine source and to the wisdom, to the evolutionary impulse of what is needed right now to move the world forward, comes through receptive channels. Whoever is a vessel and open to that, receptive to that, it comes through our soul awareness into our consciousness, but it has to get down into the world. It has to touch ground. It can't be floating 6 inches off the ground like so many of us spiritual types do. Like, oh, it would be really nice, I could do this. Oh, I just want to go meditate and walk in the trees. We actually have to create something that lands on the earth and has a point to it, a point that can penetrate the earth and create a structure on the earth that other people can enter, that can welcome people in to what we are building here. So, and I usually think of, one of the things I say is that, well, business is a fantastic vehicle that, we take our vision and turn it into a structure that we call a business. It doesn't have to be a business, doesn't have to be for money, but it has to be a structure that lands on the earth and creates something for other people. One of the things that came to me recently is that our soul work, and I've thought a lot over the years about purpose and calling, and gift and heart's desire and this longing that we have, but that it's really our medicine for the world. It's what we have brought in our soul, and like Natalie says, from this kind of omniscient awareness that is beyond our direct consciousness, of knowing exactly what is needed and what our instrument is prepared and designed to deliver. And, where Natalie speaks of the obstacles in the body, I think of the obstacles in the energy field and the emotions. And we'll talk about that later. But that when you're in alignment with this purpose, and I would say that it really takes a continual process of surrender and receptivity and experimentation, but also commitment, because I've noticed that when things are just in my fantasy world, they don't really progress. They don't refine. It's when I actually start creating something and then I get feedback from the world that it starts getting more focused and more precise. And more challenging and more scary. All of that is true. But when you're saying yes to your divine mission and you actually get as best you can into alignment so that the impediments aren't there and this energy can come through, then actually you become unstoppable. It energizes your life in a way nothing else can. And it connects you to an actual need that other people have, whatever form that takes. And it provides for you this means of support as well. So it's necessary that we have the attitude of serving our soul work and serving the medicine that we came here to deliver.
Yes. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add to this question? What is soul work and why is it important? Or any thoughts on what we've just said? Raise your hand, or you can put some feedback in the chat here. Natalie, I love your take on soul work. Thanks, Rosalie. Great. I wanted to just add to something Tomar said, which is that soul work is very much, and we're going to go into how we avoid our soul work in a moment, but soul work is very much not considered viable in our economy. So there's a collective conscious belief, conscious or unconscious belief, that soul work won't make you money and won't support your life. So what we're essentially proposing here is saying no to that there are ways, and we are discovering those ways to create ways to be supported by our soul work. And when I say that, I don't mean strictly our soul work. It doesn't mean you might not have a part-time job for a while or have some other form of income or whatever. It just means that you're committed to it and you believe that it will support your life at some point, or you'll be supported in other ways that you may never have thought of. So, Rayanne, can money be part of our soul work? Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean? As in, can you be paid? I'm not sure exactly what you're meaning by that, but yes, that's certainly what we're proposing, isn't it, Tomar?
Yes, and not only that, I don't know if Rayanne, which way you mean this, but actually the visioning and the restructuring of money can actually be part of your soul work. I feel very passionate about the need for us to completely restructure our economy. And there are many people in the world, some who don't identify themselves as particularly spiritual, but who have that same clarity and passion. And so one of the major things that's going to change our world for the better is actually shifting the organization of our economy. So that could be your soul work. That actually could be your mission.
Rayanne saying, I've made over $1 million doing my soul work, and then it had to drop to 150,000 per year doing the same thing but conflicted within myself. Wow, so that's kind of going in the other direction, isn't it? Of having to reduce your reduce your income to make it viable. So you're nodding, so I'm assuming that's what it is. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that, Rayanne?
Do you want to speak on
I'll
the
just
call?
unmute you if you want to share a little bit more.
Thank you. So I've been doing what I would call my soul work for just about 20 years. And in 2007, I reached a point where my company made $1.7 million actually. But it was then that I started to feel the pressure and the heat, not so much, inside, but also outside. I had a lot of people start to challenge me publicly, mostly on the internet, that I was doing what I was doing for the money. And that never was my driver. But I think some of that just somehow leaked in, because then still doing the same thing, fewer and fewer and fewer people were starting to enroll. And now I've hung out around that, between $150,000 and $200,000 a year, and haven't been able to bridge that, haven't been able to kind of get, and I have big vision for what I want to do next that's going to require the resources. And so it felt, which was my attraction to the call, because it felt like maybe others were mirroring some of what I was struggling with in myself. And then the universe just responded with, okay, so if 1.7 million feels uncomfortable, then how about this? Which then has become very limiting in terms of the vision and the calling of how to go to the next level. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's such a fascinating case study, Rayanne. I would say love to have a big conversation about it. My initial instinct or intuition is that the universe is actually trying to show you more of collaboration in what you're doing. So this is because your story is not surprising to me, because I hear different versions of the same story where people were going really well and then something started, they're in their soul work, but then something stalled. And I've felt this in my own business as well in the last year, especially, where I can't progress via the same model anymore. I have to go with a co-creative or collaborative model in my business if it's going to keep growing. So that's just my 2 cents very briefly. I don't know if you
that would be something to explore.
Yeah.
That would be something to explore, but it would really require a private conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
To understand what's happening.
Yeah, but it certainly relates to one of our questions today, the last one, which is what is the role of collaboration in soul work? So we will talk a little bit more about that. Thank you for sharing, though. Second question.
Yeah.
What ways do we avoid our soul work? Oh, I love this one. Tomar, do you want to go first?
Well, it's interesting because I read a book once about purpose that kind of said, oh yeah, as soon as you really discover your purpose, you suddenly get very sleepy and want to take a long nap. There is something that really is challenging because we're just not oriented to committing our resources on such a profound level. And we're kind of used to skimming the surface or treading water or not really diving as deep as we're being called to. And and we really feel that call when the light goes on and we understand what it is that we're supposed to be doing. So there's a lot of, now one of the reasons why it's so prevalent to be avoiding soul work. I mean, there's so many reasons. I mean, you could say fear of failure and fear of success and just overwhelm and all of that. But one thing I want to just speak about, which is that the spiritual entrepreneurs who are in my tribe, you know, most of us are sensitive. You know, a lot of us anyway would conform to the highly sensitive profile, which means that we have thin skins. People who are very spiritually aware and sensitive generally have trouble being confident, feeling sure of ourselves, and having that kind of courage to be out in the world, because we're easily bruised and we probably spend a lifetime being bruised and trying to protect ourselves from that. So that's partly a temperamental bias. The other thing is that those of us who are here on some mission that I would call spiritual, or people who are here to help the global transformation, we often have a history. You know, we've come here many times. We have a long history of past lives in which, if we were following a similar path from our soul's energy, we often were punished for that. So there's a very strong memory, cellular memory, and even if it's not a personal experience, it's so strongly in the collective consciousness of humanity that people who came here to do spiritual work or change work or transformational work of any kind often were persecuted, were harmed, were killed. So there's that. It's not conscious necessarily, but there's this kind of unconscious fear of visibility that so many people report having, you know, and I would also add to that the whole, you know, ancestral lineage. So we carry a lot of unconscious resistance to being seen, to being, you know, really out there. Not everyone has that. Some people have a very bold and courageous energy, but a lot of those who are here for this purpose, the ones I'm calling ahead of our time, have that sensitivity, and we can find any excuse. We may not feel consciously a fear or, you know, whatever it's really caused by. We may just get very busy. Our bodies might get sick. We might have emergencies we have to take care of. There's so many ways that stopping what you are supposed to be doing or want to do can arise in the kind of mystery and magic of the way we are energetically wired. So I could say more about that, but I'll turn it over to Natalie.
I was thinking all the same things about creating drama and busyness. These are typical ways that we avoid our soul work. And, you know, when I say drama, it can look like anything. It can just basically be distraction from finding the true core of your soul work. And as a very brief example, you know, I've been working in my business, Sacred Business, for a few years now. And before that, I was doing something else. I was also working in corporate. And I was dancing around the core of my soul work. So I was still doing soul work that felt soulful to me, but it wasn't the core. So this is the difference between soulful work and soul work. So there is a core, and this requires a lot of mastery to get, because I see very few people have gotten to this core, because you have to find it not only in your soul, but you've got to find it in your body and stand in it. So awareness of what that is one thing, like we mentioned before, the stages of finding your soul work, and then standing in it is another thing. So we can create lots of drama and busyness that not only distracts the mind, but also stagnates the channel for that to come through, your physical body. So if, as Tomar mentioned, having ailments and getting sick is a great one. And also delusion, deluding ourselves about what our soul work is, convincing ourselves it's one thing and it's actually another. And I see this commonly, and I've been guilty of it myself. So many people claiming to be doing their soul work, but it ain't quite it. There's something off. There might be a stepping stone towards it, but they haven't got to the core. So another brief thing is, Gillian said here, examples. I'm not going to give specific names. I'm thinking that's what you're wanting. But examples of people not quite hitting the core of their soul work is, for me, the way I experience it is something is off in their messaging. That's one example. So by their messaging, I mean their marketing, the way they're conveying themselves. There's a push behind what they're saying. Because when you're not standing in your core, you have to prove yourself. So anyone in the market who's out there trying to prove themselves raises alarm bells for me. So that's one major thing I look for. I also look for other things like the functionality and the physical health of their bodies. Because when you're doing your soul work, your soul energy actually feeds your body because you're an open channel for that energy to move through you freely. There's lots of different signs, but pushing is one of the major ones. One more thing I wanted to mention about what ways we avoid our soul work is the good old lack beliefs. I can't make money from my soul work. So, as I mentioned before, this really is a collective belief. Because look at our economy, how many people, or how is our economy supported? It's not supported from people doing our soul work. There's actual evidence of that. And linking back to what Tomar said at the start of the call, it is our job as light workers, as soul leaders, to create the new world, not sit around and wait for it and wait for someone to show us a viable business model for this soul work, please. We have to come up with it. And it is very much around collaboration and co-creation, coming together, putting our minds together like we are today, to explore what those models might look like. What does it mean? Because we all have those answers inside of ourselves. We just haven't quite dug deep enough yet. So, any
Can
comments?
I add a couple of things?
Yes, please do.
There were just two things. One is, as a sign, you mentioned about striving too hard to prove yourself, but I think another one is a kind of ubiquitous thing I see a lot, which is the copycat. People who are creating a business that kind of imitates what everyone is doing, what everyone is saying, the format, the style, the language, and it's in order to try to copy what's been successful, like movies do, but also just playing it safe. Well, if they're doing it, I should do that too. That's a way of really avoiding your own truth and usually watering it down. But I also want to say something, about this need to find the core of your soul work. To me, it's a very evolutionary process. It's really an unfolding. And in my experience, it keeps unfolding more and more and more. And I don't know if I'm there yet, if I found the core of my soul work yet. I know I'm a lot closer than I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And part of the way I know that is that I keep getting more fierce. I keep getting more bold about just wanting to say what my truth is. And not hold back, and it's been a revelation that one can do that. So, but I don't think it's so easy to say you have to find the core, because we don't know yet what it is. Our lifetime may be a continual process of revelation, of deeper and deeper cores. I don't know.
Yes, and I should clarify that too, because I agree with you, Tomar. I don't think you just have to find the core right now. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the intention to find your core and to stand in it is what's important. That it is an evolutionary process. It never stops. But if you know you're dancing around something, then that's your work right now. That's your soul work right now, because that's going to take you closer to the core. Actually, we have a comment from Nikki. Nikki, do you want to share your experience? You're saying, I'm so this person right now in my business. Tell us more. I'm trying to unmute
from New
you.
Zealand.
Oh, there you are. Hey, Nikki, are you
Hi,
from
how
New
you
Zealand?
going?
Cool.
I am. I'm actually at the
Wow.
lake having a walk with my dog, but I'm absolutely loving everything that I'm hearing from you.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I just can relate to everything right there. I've been in business into my 4th year. I make certified organic skincare, and I'm really passionate about creating space for women in their day to have a little ritual while they're using my products. So I call my products by the names of courage, wisdom, serene, and wonder at the moment. And then I have little cards with them to give them a daily practice as a reminder how they can kind of honor themselves and celebrate their truth. And it's come from a rebrand about 4 months ago where I was kind of quite mainstream, and this is my sort of stepping stone towards, I guess, working from that space. But it's terrifying for me at the moment because I'm actually feel like I'm totally holding my business back because I'm not still stepping up into my real purpose of, I guess from the people that call me the woo-woo, but I'm quite a conventional upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really kind of stopping me to be visible and just really go for it.
Yes. I think I can certainly relate to that. Feeling afraid of what the mainstream folks will say.
Yes. Yeah, and just niching sort of that message down. And I just sell at markets and online at the moment. I used to be in retail, but I pulled out because I didn't feel the partnerships and the collaborations with those stores, they just wanted money. So I was like, screw this, I'm pulling out. So now financially, I'm actually in kind of quite a lot of trouble because I have a bit of a bank debt to carry through, but I'm not creating because I'm, I guess, not connecting with the right people because my message probably online is just still not, it's just the clarity's not there of actually what I'm trying to say and articulate.
You know, your message sounds wonderful, and I'm happy that you've gotten more free to speak, you know, more passionately about your products. And sometimes it's also a matter of finding the right audience, you know, so that the match has to be right. We have to find the people who are actually receptive to what we have to offer, because you can assume, and I can guarantee, that there is an audience. In my experience, the more out there we become, the more, like people say, flying your freak flag, you know, that actually is more of a route to success than trying to hide it and trying to blend in and look normal. You know, the more but we have to also stand in it, like Natalie says. We have to actually, you know, not be saying, oh, this is who I am, but don't look at me. You know, say, yes, this is who I am.
Actually, Nikki,
I'm hiding under the flag a bit, I think.
hiding under the free flag.
It's a process.
I think the next question, Nikki, might help.
Hiding
me
in
a little bit.
but it's a process, and with encouragement and feedback, you get more bold, you get more brave.
Thank you so much for letting me share today. That's just in itself quite a big step for myself.
Woohoo! Fly your freak
Congratulations.
flag. Go, Nikki. I love it. Thanks for sharing, Nikki. Good one, Julian's gone. You have joined the Woo Woo Club. I'm the Woo Woo in my conventional family. So there you go. Cool.
There's many of us in some stage of that transition.
Yeah.
Yes, and more of the world is catching up with us. We're not really different anymore.
No. So next question is, how can we shape our soul work to what the market needs? So this is such a meaty question. So I'm going to touch on a couple of things briefly. The first thing is that I've observed in the last few years of working with people who are creating new businesses, sometimes from scratch, or creating a new business identity, and they're creating offers like products or services from scratch as well, is aside from perhaps not standing in what they're offering, avoiding their soul work, the other thing I've noticed is they haven't allowed sufficient time for the offering to ripen in themselves. So it's almost like allowing time for you in yourself to ground the creativity. So the idea, just because you have an idea and you might have worked it out on paper, doesn't mean it's ready to be delivered yet. You have to embody that offering. So, and this can be a major roadblock to actually making sales, especially in the early years, in the early years of a new offering. So you've got to allow the time to ground your creativity and actually work that into your marketing plan, into your timeline. Do not place pressure on yourself to launch something before you're really comfortable in standing in it. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't be experimenting with people, getting feedback on that offering, testing it in your market, having conversations with people, because that all goes into helping you to ground your offering. So that's something really important I wanted to mention, as well as something I see commonly is that people will create offerings where they haven't actually included all of their skills and talents from their past and combine them into what they're delivering now. So what they do is they shut off something, oh, that was my old career, done, dusted, haven't taken anything from that, and creating something completely new, which is denied that entire part of themselves that is actually part of who you are today. And that often holds people back so much, and they wonder what's going on. Why aren't people responding to this? Why isn't this floating in the market? So you need to make sure that whatever you offer today means that nothing from your past is wasted. So I often do a skills inventory with my clients to make sure that all their previous skills are actually in some way, not necessarily directly, but in some way part of their current offerings. A great example is my own, once again, where, I've had 10 years experience working in business. I have a double business degree. I've worked in corporate environments as a project manager. That's the bulk of my history. So for me to then flip a switch and go, oh, I'm now offering healing services or spiritual coaching, or, denying that entire aspect of myself, is a big loss. So people sense that. People sense that there's something missing when you're denying a part of yourself that is actually really significant. So if you haven't already and you're at this stage, doing a skills inventory could be a good place to start. Over to you, Tomar.
Well, on that topic, this is a kind of another form of the freak flag idea. This being as quirkily unique as you can possibly be is what I always recommend. The more a person can actually bring things together, diverse parts of themselves, in some unique way, the more they really, first of all, they become comfortable within themselves. We become comfortable when we are accepting ourselves, when we're actually kind of residing within our true self and our life and our history. And I know for me, it's like layers and layers of tension and pretense have fallen away since I first started in business, where I thought I had to be something. And I said, you mean I can be me? I can actually be who I am. I can actually make what I care about, what my business is. So so it's that uniqueness that is actually the greatest selling point. And I'm not saying it's easy to arrive at that. It's really a gestation. Also, in terms of shaping our work to what the market needs, of course, we have to talk to people and find out what the market needs. But there's something that is similar to what you were saying, Natalie, about the time it takes and giving yourself that time. There's an approach that I really like, which is about being really playful, being really whimsical and playful and light, and offering things in a way where there just isn't a lot of consequence attached to it. There just isn't a lot of urgency that this succeeds. So like putting things out in the world, maybe lots of things. Like there's one mentor who talks about, don't start a business, start a project. You're dating your business, you're not marrying it. You're first, it's like you're getting to know the whole range of what's possible. And you can really be surprised by what people respond to. But you have to be available for that. You have to actually be out there in connecting with people. And I found throwing playful things out into the water was an incredibly delightful way of getting people to interact with me and getting feedback on some of the things I was experimenting with. The attitude of experimentation, it's like, I think it's partly, a lot of people say there's this tendency to be a perfectionist and to try to spend all this time creating this finished product. But actually, if we just put feelers out and we just, play in the waters, it could be both fun and be very enlightening, really actually reveal things that you wouldn't have seen or you wouldn't have known. And you particularly don't know what the market needs unless you ask. So all of that, it's a process of matching the energies of these two elements, what our medicine is and what our tribe is looking for. And these have to vibrationally match. So that's a process of matching and filtering and testing. Does anyone have any experience with that? What are you saying?
I was just saying I love, Cherie's saying the same. I love that, being whimsical and dreaming up things. I love the element of play in launching something new. You don't have to get it right the first time. You can just put your experimentation hat on and go, I'm just experimenting here. Just seeing how it goes. So cool.
People respond to that energy.
Yeah.
People really respond if you say, hey, I'm trying something new. Anyone want to play with me? I've gotten so much response when I put it out in that kind of language. Like, hey, I'm trying something. Who's game to play?
Yes.
It's just the energy is communicated. Rather than, I have something you need.
Yeah, that's so different.
Which is a lot of what marketing messaging says, right?
Does anyone want to share thoughts or have any comments on this one, shaping our soul work to what the market needs? No? Okay. Asking rather than...
Also, just want to say something. Yes, asking rather than telling. Like, we shouldn't assume that we know best. We should actually have an attitude of humility and curiosity.
I hope that's what we're doing today, Tomar. That was our intention.
Tomar has frozen. I might have frozen.
Okay. Shall we move to the final question? We have about just under 10 minutes left. What is the role of collaboration in soul work? Tomar, do you want to start this one?
It's really important. We're going to be talking more about collaboration on our next call, but one of the things that most businesses die from is isolation. And there are so many forms of, it's like we're primates, and we're designed to live in tribes and in communities. And isolation is not the design for the human, template. So there are many forms of support and nourishment and enhancement that we get from working with others. So it could be just, having a support network where we get feedback and brainstorming and advice and, support and suggestions. But it goes beyond that to actually finding people we can partner with, finding people that we, can actually commit to somehow sharing each other's vision, whether it's supporting each other's vision or collaborating on a project that embodies that vision. But the difference between working in a vacuum, trying to do everything alone, and maybe just paying people here and there for the support as we can afford it, and actually having some kind of community and network that we are embedded in, that we can kind of lean back into, that we can feel held by, and where we can have the benefit of the synergy of many brilliant minds together, which so, expands the potential of insight and vision and inspiration. So to me, it's a game changer. Collaboration is a game changer. Natalie.
So yes, I was saying that soul gifts are most powerful in context. So your job as a translator of your soul gifts to the people who need it is also lateral. You need to be communicating what you offer to your colleagues as well as your clients, not just your target market. So this is about thinking laterally, thinking in the form of a network, that you sit in your role as a business in the context of other businesses, the same businesses as yours. So if you're a coach, then you're sitting with other life coaches or business coaches. If you're a hairdresser, then you've got other hair salons. You've got complementary businesses to yours. So it might be, if you're a hair salon, it's going to be hair products. It might be hair and nails. It could be all sorts of things. You want to be seeing your business as part of a web. So this is why collaboration is important, because your soul work is designed to be delivered as part of a web, not as a silo, not in solo. So, and of course we're going to go more into this on the next call, so I'll leave it there. But I also wanted to say that new gifts require, so new gifts meaning your soul work, especially if you're ahead of your time, your gifts that are possibly ahead of our time also require new modes of delivery. That means that the old business models may not work. Maybe they're not supposed to work for your soul gifts. You have to come up with new ways of delivering those soul gifts. In particular, collaborative business models and networks. Starting to think as part of a web. We are now in the age of Aquarius. This is all about connections, being part of a broader network, global healing, unity, working as a team. This is not the time for thinking about just you and what you're doing. So that's a little, I guess, taste of what we'll be talking about next week. Any thoughts? Cherie, that's a good one. Ahead of our time and new modes of delivery. So true for me. Yes. Awesome. We'll definitely be exploring some of those modes of delivery on our next call.
Yep.
So, yes.
And also, Natalie, should we say a few words about the True Abundance Oasis?
Yes, I think so.
I froze. I turned off my video also. I hope people can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll be talking about this more as time goes on, but just as a taster, the community that we alluded to, that Natalie and I have, want to have be like a home online or an oasis in the, chaotic world of business marketing programs. will be really there largely as a place to develop your soul work. This is like the central theme, one of several, major themes that we have focused this community around. It is there to exactly help people bring their soul work into the world, develop their soul work, and also to find connections with collaborators and new forms of collaboration, and to explore these new methods of delivery. So it's really, we're in the process of refining our offer, and the website will probably be more ready in the next week or two. But I just want to let you know that what we're talking about on these calls is what we believe is needed, and is what we are planning to create a supportive environment for.
Yes, absolutely. So shall we introduce the next topic for next week for those of you who might be able to make it?
Yes.
Oh, I
What
was
is that topic?
I was going to let you do it.
Well, basically, it's basically, is there an alternative to working alone and in competition? Is there any alternative to this solo, this painful way of working that we all seem to have accepted as inevitable? That there is, the very term solopreneur doesn't actually leave room for anything else. And embedded in the whole idea of marketing and, achievement and success is grabbing the attention for oneself and competing and, shouting and trying to get, that piece of the attention in this very competitive way that makes a lot of us feel desperate and anxious and not very happy. Is there an alternative? Yes. It's called collaboration. So we're going to be talking about collaboration. And yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. It's been so wonderful chatting with you, and an hour feels very short to encourage interaction, but we at least hope that we have planted some seeds with you today, and you're more than welcome to stay in touch with us via our website, which is trueabundance.org. And you can sign up to our mailing list there, and you'll receive updates on future calls and, more information about DAO, if that's what you're after. So,
and the same for people who will be listening to this on recording, of which there will be many more. Please stay in touch. We're going to do 3 more of these calls in the following 3 weeks. And then we're going to be probably launching DAO in April. So there's some wonderful things we can't wait to share with you that are coming soon.
Yes, and we hope you'll join us next week. I think it'll be the same time, won't it, Tomar? Same time next week? Yeah. Same time next week, next topic. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up.
Bye.